All right, everybody, welcome back to another Jujutsu Kaisen Phantom Parade video. Today's video, we got another character concept similar to the Sukuna one I made. I got a couple positive comments. They're pretty nice. I got a few likes on it, so I was really happy with the response of how it turned out on that video. So I also really wanted to do this, kind of just follow up on that Shibuya Sukuna concept once again. So, yeah, I really wanted to know what a Mahoraga type based unit would look like. So this is what I made. So I got Trump Card, Megami Fishigoro. So he's a red unit right here. Just jumping straight into it. He's a red unit. Let's check out. The reason being why I chose for him to be a red unit was because if you take a look at the current available Megamis, we got the yellow Domain Expansion Megami, we got the green, what is that, Bonds of Friendship Megami, and we got the Inherited Curse Technique, the original blue Megami. So we don't have any red Megami currently, so it was kind of an easy shut case. I figured, this would be a nice way to round it out, give Megami all the units he might be all the colored units, so you can use them Megami on every single team. Kind of like how currently we have a single type colored every single UG, every single Gojo. I wanted to round it off and make a nice even bow on top. Have this guy be the last Megami for the currently Megami typings that we don't have. So, red unit. This is kind of the art I was going with. Art that I really liked would be a really cool concept for the card. We got the Megami doing the pose, summoning the Mahoraga, kind of foreboding in the background. Maybe I'd have it be more of an obvious focus on Megami, because we're going to get into it, but right now he's Megami, but later on, if you're catching my drift, it's going to be a Mahoraga card. So, but first things first, let's just talk about Megami. First of all, he's an interferer. I think is probably the best way to categorize him. Honestly, he's a combined focus. He's got equal parts taijutsu and jujutsu, and he's afflictions year 1 jujutsu high school. So all right, there's these stats. There's not really much of a rhyme or reason. I try to keep them similar to the Sukuna one that I did. Very similar stats and everything. I wanted to keep them kind of current with what's on the JP side of level of stats. So yeah, we're going to jump right in. All kits are at level 10, and the very first kit is a very basic skill. All the Megamis kind of have a zero-cost cursed energy type taijutsu-based attack, whether it's a sword or whether it's him punching or whatnot. So I just kind of kept that with the theme of a 200% taijutsu to the selected enemy for 3 hits. Very basic, very standard attack. No cursed energy, but we'll get right into the next one, which is Rapid Escape, which we don't have a Megami that does Rapid Escape solely because it only debuted with the Shibuya saga, the Shibuya incident. So very new, very cool idea I had with this is that it grants evasion to self for 1 turn, decreases all enemies' critical hit chance by 40% for 2 turns, decreases all enemies' critical hit resistance by 30%, and decreases all enemies' ultimate count by 1. Can't be used again for 3 turns. Kind of the idea I had with this is the very obvious one being that it's Rapid Escape. It's supposed to be a very defensive, very evasive maneuver type deal. It's 10 cursed energy, so it's not like you're going to be able to spam it out, but just in case, I added it to where you can't use this for 3 turns, because if you're able to just stack all 3 of these just over and over, just the evasion, just the decreased ultimate count by 1 is already this skill's kind of busted for that, but it's a very good utility move. I added this one in here just because of the fact that, the idea behind it is it throws the enemy off guard and, gives the character a chance to maybe make a comeback attack, like a surprise attack. So that's the kind of the thought process I had in mind. You gotta love these cute little bunnies on there. But yeah, I think this would be a very busted skill in its own right, if used correctly. But onto the next skill is a very more basic skill. This is skill 3, and it's just his Toad, which I also believe is not a Shikigami that has been utilized yet with any Megami currently. So I think this is a good opportunity to introduce both of them. So this one is skill 3 Toad. It's 20 cursed energy and deals range combined damage equal to 400% taijutsu and 80% jujutsu to the selected enemy. Honestly, I might buff that up just a little bit. Just a little bit, nothing crazy. And decreases the selected selected enemies' taijutsu stat by 60%. So, solid move, lowers their taijutsu, and it's kind of a combined move for both. It's more of a physical. I imagine, like, it'd probably be the toad just kind of sticking out its tongue real far and just slapping the enemy or something. Basic move, but very good. The real meat and potatoes is about to come up next, with everyone knows and love is Mahoraga. Now, this Mahoraga is a little special. Like I said, currently this has been Megumi Fushiguro, and the theme with him is kind of defensive, obviously, with the Rabbit Escape. Very basic skill 1. I mean, honestly, you can make an argument, maybe give this an extra defensive quality as well, or maybe an offensive quality. But this Mahoraga is more of an offensive juggernaut, like he's supposed to be. So let's just jump right in with what he does. Cannot be activated unless character is 40% or less health. Takes 2 turns to activate. Character undergoes summoning status. Gives taunt status to self, and after 1 turn, replaces unit with Mahoraga. Applies 50% damage reduction from taijutsu and jujutsu enemy attacks for 2 turns. So what this means is, right here especially, I imagine people are going to have questions about it. In my mind, let's say you have your ult gauge maxed out and you're ready to use Mahoraga. You press the turn, you press to activate Mahoraga, that's 1 turn. And he goes into this pose, is what he does. He does the summoning ritual, and during that time, after he goes into this ritual pose, he gets taunt status. So what I have in mind is, like, the enemies, especially, like, Sukuna, they know, like, oh shit, he's about to pull out a big one. I gotta end this guy now. So it's kind of a risk-reward thing. You can either go the safe route with, like, these rabbit escapes and toads, or you can shoot for the stars and summon the Mahoraga. You do get a 50% damage reduction, so you do take less damage. So it's very plausible that even with this taunt status, you'll survive. So after the 1 turn of you being in taunt status is up, the next turn you aren't able to attack with him, but you'll automatically go into the Mahoraga, which is this guy. I love this art. I found this art. I need to find out who made this art. I was just on Google Images and I thought this looks sick. But imagine, like, an actual art change, which I feel like it should have an art change, and I feel like it should, like, change the character. If you're familiar with Dokkan Battle, like, the idea was like an exchange or, like, a swap or something like that. Like it's a brand new character essentially, and it will reflect that in what happens. That Megumi was very defensive. This guy is going to be pure straight offensive with some really good utility, and I'll get right into that. So I'm going to actually show both his skill 1 and skill 2. Skill 1 is Divine Strike, 0 cursed energy. Skill 2, Extermination Sword, 0 cursed energy. And that's going to be like this sword that he uses on Sukuna here, this one that right here. And they're 0 cursed energy because they're both taijutsu related. You can argue, you could argue this may be some jujutsu, but I imagine it's more of like a cursed tool. So that's why it's 0 cursed energy. So let's jump in with what they do. Deals 1,000 taijutsu to the selected enemy for 3 hits, as well as when critical hit is performed, increases own damage dealt by 30% for 2 turns. So this is a very, very good skill already. 1,000 taijutsu for 3 hits. That's nothing to laugh about. And when a critical hit is performed, he's boosting himself up. Very, very good. But combine that also with the Extermination Sword, which deals a combined 50% Jujutsu and 500% Jujutsu and 500% Taijutsu to the selected enemy for 2 hits. Very, very strong maneuver. It's a little less overall damage than this, but the payoff is it ignores non-permanent damage reduction buffs on enemies and increases own break damage. So while this move is doing the most damage, this move is dealing a lot more break damage, and it's kind of weakening them. It's ignoring their damage reduction buffs. You might be wondering what I mean by non-permanent damage reduction buffs, and the idea behind it is specifically that, in the tower floors, you have the enemies that have a permanent damage reduction. That's usually those ones that have, like, the minions that you have to knock out first before you can get rid of those. But those damage reduction buffs are permanent status. They're not one of those ones that an enemy can use a skill and they boost themselves, that's the ones I'm mainly referring to that he can bypass. Those specific permanent buffs, I feel like I don't want this. I want this guy to be good, but I don't want him to like break every single tower floor good. There's still got to be some sort of game mechanics that you have to follow by, and there's got to be some sort of balance there. So I thought, being able to bypass the ones that they give themselves, those multiplicative buffs rather than the permanent ones, I felt like it was pretty appropriate. So two very, very strong moves. Again, this is supposed to be like overall the entirety of Mahoraga is Megami's ult. So let's go on to his skill 3, which is a very basic skill, is a wheel turn for 0 curse synergy. And the idea is that speeds up the adaptation count by 1. So what does that mean? What does that mean by adaptation count by 1? Well, you're going to see there's a special mechanic. Just like the Sukuna, I introduced his intrigue, where he gets more intrigued. This Mahoraga also has a token counter as well. We'll get into that after the ultimate. So the ultimate can only be used once the user has reached an adaptation count of 10. Or I should probably fix this. Yeah, an adaptation count of 10, and the ult gauge is max. So there's two requirements for this besides just the ult gauge being filled. The effects of this is that it recovers own HP by half, removes all own eligible debuffs, increases own taijutsu and jujutsu damage by 200% permanently, dude. I feel like that is busted. As well as, and on top of that, increases own break damage by 100% permanent. So the idea behind it is that you use adaptation, you may not be strong enough to beat someone, but if you adapt, you're boosting these two skills. You're boosting the taijutsu and jujutsu and the break damage. So you're getting stronger as the fight is going on. It takes a while to get there, and that's kind of the idea. But if you're in a fight where you can maybe stall out and get this guy up adapted, like, he's a very viable, very strong option. His last effect is previously inflicted by an ailment, increases resistance to that ailment by 30%. So let's say you're fighting Sukuna, he's using a lot of lacerations, and you're able to get your ultimate and you're able to adapt. Suddenly those lacerations are doing way less damage. Or if you're fighting a Jogo and he has fire, and he's afflicted fire damage to the to this Mahoraga, he's gonna suddenly be 30% stronger to that type of ailment, or resistant to that. So I think this is a very, I really hope they have something similar to this for Mahoraga if they ever do add him, which I know they will. I think this is kind of I wouldn't say super busted, but super balanced. It's kind of in a weird gray area. It has the high potential for this whole kit to be overly busted, but it could also be, there's a specific reason why I gave this guy only 50% heals. This guy can still die. If you don't make it to that adaptation, you can definitely just get cooked, dog. Like, this Mahoraga, I tried to make him with in mind, not invulnerable to everything, but, if he's left unchecked, he's gonna fucking cook. Like, seriously. I could have easily made this a 100%, but I feel like that in and of itself would make him probably the best unit in the game, because if you're able to just keep adapting and just keep healing, max him out, he's just not going to lose. So, again, kind of back to the wheel turn, jumping right ahead, speed up adaptation count by 1. So, I made him an auto skill, and this has two different effects for both Megami and Mahoraga. So, for Megami, when using the ultimate, undergo Wheel of Adaptation status. He cannot attack the following turn. That's the 2-turn kind of timer that I set up for Megami. And following the turn, swaps into Mahoraga. So for the turn that he uses this, he can't attack, obviously because he's using the skill. But the following turn, he'll swap right into it. And this is the only 100% heal he has, and it nullifies all debuffs and buffs that he may have had in the first place. The reason being for that is I want it to kind of be treated as a new character when he enters the fray. I don't want it to be like anything carrying over from Megami, whether that's buffs or debuffs carrying over. I want it to be a brand new spanking unit, pretty much. But kind of getting to the point I was making at with this skill 3 right here is whenever you're Mahoraga, upon receiving a hit, increase Wheel of Adaptation counter by 1. Once the user has reached 10 adaptation counts, ultimate becomes available. So, what that means is you need to take 10 hits with this guy. And mind you, he's a beefy guy. So he's all offense while the Megumi's all defense. That's kind of the way I was trying to go for it. And if you, it's definitely feasible. Like these guys can get to 10 hits. Maybe I should lower it, but I'm worried if I were to lower it, maybe it would be too busted. Just for the sake of it, maybe 8? Does that seem a bit more feasible? I don't know. You guys tell me. I think 8 might be a bit more fair, honestly. With everything else that's going on, like, if you're fighting a lot of enemies, he's going to adapt faster. If he's taking more hits, he's going to adapt faster. But if you're fighting, like, one enemy, that would take, like, 10 whole turns to get to one adaptation, which seems kind of, like, a bit too much, in my opinion. That's partially why I also added this. Speed up your adaptation count by just 1. I feel like it's kind of a fair trade-off too. So like if you're getting cooked maybe and like you've only needs a couple more hits, maybe you can do a wheel turn and speed up the adaptation, and then next turn get an adaptation immediately. Like there's possibilities, there's avenues that you can go across. And I kind of want to let you have options. Like also the idea is that if your Megami is like 40% health or less and you're using skills like Rabbit Escape, like you got to be pretty far into the battle already. So in my opinion, if you're getting to Mahoraga and getting to this stage with adaptation, that's a lot of turns to get through. So maybe I think lowering it might be better. I might even say as far as 5, but I don't know. You guys tell me what you guys think. Do you think this is busted? Do you think this is am I kind of babying it a little bit and trying to should I make it go even more busted? I mean, you guys tell me. I think this is something very similar to what I would really want to see in a Mahoraga card. It wouldn't have to be exactly the same, not at all, but I do think you can't have Shikigami be their own summonable unit. I mean, if they do that eventually, that might be a little weird. I mean, you're not out here summoning for new ways or fucking divine dogs, am I right? So I feel like it's got to be intrinsically tied to a Megumi, and I feel like it's got to be a process to get to the Mahoraga besides just filling that ult gauge. I feel like just filling that ult gauge to summon him, despite what Megumi would make you want to believe by every 5 fucking seconds he's trying to summon him in the show, this guy has got to be probably a bit more difficult than normal than just the ult gauge to get to. So you guys let me know what you think. Do you guys like these kinds of videos? The reception for the last video was kind of like I got a couple comments here and there. It did pretty well on views and everything, but let me know, guys. I'm very interested in possibly doing a full form Mahito and a end of season 2 Yuji Todori build. So you guys let me know if you'd like to see that. Thank you guys so much for watching. Tell me what you guys think of this in the comments. What would you guys like to see out of a Mahoraga unit? So thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you all in the next one. Peace.